everybody, and welcome to Generally Speaking, the podcast that bridges the worlds of pop culture and personal development. I'm your host, Jennifer Snook. I'm so happy to be here with you guys today. I hope everything has been going well in your world. Things have been fine in mine. And let me just tell you guys, I promise this week I'm going to try not to cry. There's no guarantees, but I will do my best, I promise. Before we get into today's episode, if you're watching this on YouTube, please make sure you reach out and smash that subscribe button. I would appreciate it. Thank you very much. So some of you may remember that this time last year, I had a gal named Sabrina Abate come up the stairs at the salon, and she was checking in for her birthday hair appointment. And she started looking at me crazy. And then she was like, wait a minute, are you? And I was like, who? And she says, you know, that girl from TikTok. I go, which girl? I don't know who you're talking about. Anyway, Sabrina came from Canada to have her hair done at the salon. And we hit it off. Then I ended up having her co-host on the pod. And so many of you loved her. So this year she came back to the salon to have her hair done again. And we had the best time. And it was so great to see her. And we talked about having her on the pod again. And I promise you guys, she will be on the pod again very soon. So you can look forward to having Sabrina and all of her energy join us for a Miami recap, which we actually did while she was in the middle of getting her hair done. And if you want to see it, you can go check it out on my TikTok. We also covered the OC while she was sitting and waiting. So go check that out. And I will make sure to leave some pictures of our day together in the community tab. So make sure you check that out. That woman is hilarious. And you talk about high energy. Honestly, she makes me look like I don't even have a blood pressure. And then holy shit, you guys, it is getting juicy in Jersey. Andy just recently came out and said that they are getting very close. You know, we talked about that. But now there are rumblings that the cast is actually taking shape. And now there's rumors that it's actually being shaped around some very familiar faces. Faces like Joe and Melissa, Marge, Dolores, a couple other names you might know, and a few new girls. And there's talk that maybe they're gonna shape the whole thing around Joe Gorga's burgeoning comedy career, but I mean, could that really be? Here's what we know, you guys. We all know that we have waited a very long time, but the truth is, we're not going to have to wait that much longer, at least no longer than November, because definitely, without a doubt, it will be out at BravoCon at the latest. And here's what else we know. Teresa is not getting her own show. And let me just say this. If by chance I'm wrong, which I really don't think I am, I will eat crow, a whole plate of it. And here's who's not involved. A little lady named Teresa, or her joke of a friend Jen, or her loony husband Louie. I'm telling you guys, Teresa will not be back on Bravo anytime soon. At least not while she's still married to Louie. But don't worry, you guys, Teresa is not broke yet. We actually just found out that Teresa Giudice and her mother are both going to be on season 4 of Special Forces. Teresa and Gia went on this show together, this show that tests your physical and mental endurance. And I know that Teresa was asked to be on Big Brother. She said that she wouldn't want to do that show because it would mean that she would have to be without her phone and too far away from her family. But this must have been just the perfect setup for her because she got to have her daughter with her while she was away. So that was the perfect little security blanket that allowed Teresa to go out and do this. And good for her because God knows the woman does need to make some money. But what happens next? I mean, because she was on House of Villains. She did that because she got to have her phone half the day. And now she's done this Special Forces with Gia. She's not willing to do Big Brother. I'm not sure how many more reality shows are out there for her to do before she runs out of reality shows to do. And honestly, right now, reality shows are the only way that she's bringing in any type of money. Well, that and her, you know, bring back our wives cruise or whatever that was with the drag queens. But the only real money that she's making, the money that she needs to sustain that family is reality show money, not drag show money, not personal appearance money. It's reality show money. So she is desperate to stay in the game. I just don't know how much more of the game is left for her to play. I really don't. It's basically all played out. I think she's all played out on Bravo, and now she's just like network hopping to see who will take her because they know that she'll make good TV, but still there just aren't that many shows to keep Teresa bringing in the income. But you know what I'm curious about? Here's Teresa out there busting her ass, going and doing, you know, spreading her legs for the whole world to see down in Australia on stage. And now she's doing Special Forces, pushing herself to the ends of her limits. And what in the holy hell is Loony Louie doing all this time? I mean, he's not working. He just travels with her and I don't know, is that like her pseudo bodyguard at this point? But why isn't he going on these reality shows? Why isn't he pushing himself for the whole world to see? I mean, that's how we all got to know Louie, right? We all got to know him through that warrior program where he was on that beach pushing himself and acting like a madman. Well, I mean, now's the time, Louie. Let's get you on some shows so we can all, watch you bust your ass and break your back to bring home some dollars instead of just freeloading off Teresa. It's just getting to the point now where, I mean, I know she co-signs the crazy constantly every day that she wakes up, but it's just, honestly, you guys, I know you never thought you'd hear this, but honestly, I just feel sorry for her because I feel like she is just so stressed, just trying to keep her head above water. But I mean, this is the point, Teresa, where truthfully, I mean, for the love of God, surrender. This is where you just need to surrender and stop fighting the flow of life, honestly, for yourself and for everyone around you. But I gotta say, I am super excited to see that show. And not just because Teresa is on it. Firstly, I am there to see Teresa and I do want to watch her. She does entertain me, you guys, especially, I've said this before, Teresa is so much more entertaining when she is not in New Jersey, quite frankly. But this show's going to be good. This show also has on it Cody Brown, right? I love it. It makes for good TV. This is awful to say, but when people are like desperate for the dollars, they are just there. They give it their all. You've got Teresa, desperate for the dollars. Cody Brown, desperate for the dollars. That big liar face, Jussie Smollett, very desperate for the dollars. You have former Housewives of Atlanta, who I love, Eva Marcille. And I don't know how desperate she is for the dollars, but I'm assuming that if she had as many dollars as she'd like to have, then she wouldn't be doing this show. And then we have Miss Brittany Cartwright, who we know is not getting a dollar or a dime from her ex-husband, Jack, so she indeed is desperate for the dollars. And then, of course, there's the Denise Richards and the Aaron Pfeiffers of it all, and God knows that thing is such a mess. And I mean, I think, truth be told, both of these people are just broken, wounded souls that have no business being in a marriage probably at all right now, let alone to either one of their dysfunctional asses. But I mean, the last thing that happened was she went over to what is technically her house, but where his parents have been residing, and that's where he's staying now, along with his brother. And I know that might sound weird to people, like that's, her house and his family's in it, but they were all one family not that long ago. And this was an agreement that was made amongst all of them. I've only ever heard her say very nice things about his family. So I think that they provided a level of stability until things went so haywire. But anyway, she goes over to their house knowing that Aaron's going to be there and knowing that there is a restraining order in place, a restraining order that she filed. So basically, she's the one that's breaking the restraining order, and Aaron had to go jumping out of a window so he didn't get in trouble for it. And then there's the disparity in the stories. She says that black eye came because he knocked her down a flight of stairs. Meanwhile, his friends are saying that she showed up at the party blackout drunk and fell down the stairs and got that black eye, which honestly just does not surprise me at all. I mean, we all saw her slur her way around that room wearing that jacket upside down, acting like a crazy person. And then in other Denise Richards news, come to find out, Rachel Zoe is having a fit and really taking issue with production and with Bravo because she never agreed to work with Denise Richards. And now she is finding herself filming Beverly Hills and being confronted with Denise because Denise is apparently back on the show in some kind of capacity. And Rachel Zoe, who many of you may not know, but if you know, you know. I mean, Rachel Zoe predates most of these people. She was Bravo royalty before most of these Housewives franchises even existed. Rachel Zoe is a get for Beverly Hills. And if she is throwing a fit, not wanting to film with Denise, that's going to be an issue. And I'm going to say this again, regardless of whether or not her husband is an asshole or an abuser or whatever the hell he is or is not, she still needs help. And nothing, and I mean nothing in her life is going to get better until she gets it. And I think it's hard for anyone to admit that they have a drug addiction, that they have a problem with pills or whatever it is. But I think it's extra hard if up until that point in your life, you have always been the good guy, or like Denise has always been the sane one, the stable one, the one that didn't have a drug problem, right? That was her ex-husband, Charlie Sheen. She was the one that always held it all together and provided the support. So it's really, really hard. Like I remember that. Like I was so anti-drug my whole life until the day came that I had a problem with it. And the shame, I know everyone feels shame, but the shame you feel when you spend your whole life, preaching against drugs, it makes it just 10 times harder. So, like, I can imagine how hard it is for Denise, who's been dealing with Charlie Sheen's drug addiction most of her life, to then have to say it happened to me too. It's hard. It's hard. It's so, so hard. But you can't get through the fire without walking through the flames. And the sooner you start walking in that direction, the sooner you escape. Anyway, on a completely different note, you guys, did you guys hear about this whole Martina Navratilova thing? She has come out and made her stance against surrogacy very well known. She has some Twitter thing going on where she rants and raves about her anti-surrogacy stance. And I guess Andy Cohen came out and he said that she is grossly misinformed and it's sad that she feels this way. And I gotta say, I couldn't agree more with Andy. I mean, how in God's name? I don't know. How is surrogacy wrong? If any of you feel the same way that Martina feels, please enlighten me, because honestly, just I can't see any real downside to it if it's something that was, thought out and really well considered. It just seems crazy to me that fulfilling someone's dream of becoming a parent could be wrong in any way. Anyway, but I'm curious what you guys think. If there's anyone that agrees with Martina, I would really just like to understand where she's coming from, what the reasoning is. Just because I don't see it. Maybe I just don't understand it, but do enlighten me, please. Okay, and now it's time for reality check, you guys. We are not going to do a full dive of part 2 of the Valley reunion, but we are going to just go down the line of each of these characters and just give a little update. We're just going to keep it quick, and then we're going to dive into OC and Miami. So this is 2 years of the same cast, basically. And this is kind of where we land at the end of season 2. God knows what season 3 is going to bring. Casting wise, I'm very excited to see it. But as of now, we have Jasmine, who is now officially engaged. But sorry, I don't know. I'm not excited. She bores me. She really does. But I am completely wishing them all the luck in the world. And then we have Zach, and we are absolutely keeping him. We're 100% keeping Zach, even if that means keeping his little boy Benji. Boyfriend. I am fully here for Zach. Honestly, I think he's the only funny person on that show right now. And it's not even that he's so funny, but he's the only one that ever makes me laugh. Him and occasionally Kristen's one-off lines. That's the problem with the Valley right now. People are calling it dark. I don't really think it's dark because we're just dealing with life, but it is heavy. It's freaking heavy. And every couple, every scene is kind of dealing with heavy shit. There's no levity. There's no laughter. There's no light. There's just not any of that. And so you're missing the balance. And that's what you need in the show. You need to go up and you need to go down, right? You need both. You need the yin and the yang. And the Valley is just lacking that. It's just on this very kind of low kind of vibration because everything is just so heavy and feels just very weighted. Everything feels very weighted. And I know officially now we have Sheena back. Sheena coming back to the Valley is really just kind of neutral for me. Sheena doesn't bring anything, no real highs, no real lows, because Sheena's just always trying to balance everybody out to keep everybody happy so that then everybody likes her. So she's not a lightning bolt. She's no one that really changes the energy in a room. Sheena is not an energy changer. And then there's Lala, who does change the energy, but Lala's not light and fun right now. She's not. I don't think Lala would be a great addition either. Truthfully, you have Tom Sandoval. He's a lightning rod. He will light the room up, no doubt. But then is it just Vanderpump Rules Part 2? Is it just a recycled version of an old show? I'm fully here for Zach. And honestly, just thinking about watching him navigate the ups and downs of a relationship already makes me laugh. And then you've got Jesse, who honestly I think is just such a lost little fella. He is just desperately struggling to figure out who he is and what should really matter to him instead of what actually matters to him. As for Michelle, she was still with Aaron when they shot this reunion, but we know that they are together no more, and it's really going to be interesting to watch the intricacies and the nuance between her and Jesse and see how they navigate this new chapter of their relationship. Speaking of Michelle, you may actually be seeing her show up on this season of Real Housewives of Orange County. It obviously hasn't happened yet, but keep your eyes peeled because, spoiler alert, Heather Dubrow shot a scene right underneath 901 last April. She's been doing a collab with our neighbors, Junior's Cookies, to support the Trevor Project. And Heather's hairdresser, Flo, who is one of our senior stylists, invited all of us. And funny thing is, I wasn't even working that day, but I did have a hair appointment with Rihanna, so I was there. And when I look down out the window, I see production, I see most of the Dubrow family, who I might add are honestly just some of the cutest, sweetest people. But aside from Heather and all of her people, the other person that was there was Michelle Lawley. So unless that scene gets cut, we should end up finding out what Michelle was doing hanging out with Heather. Then we have Luke and my cutie Kristen. I mean, honestly, Kristen has paid her dues. She has walked through the fire a few times, and now she's living a life she loves, and I love that for her. And my Rihanna also does Kristen's hair, and didn't it look amazing? Then you've got Janet, and her husband, Mr. Jason. And sorry, but he just feels so performative to me. I just can't take it. I cannot take this hyper fixation on how he seems like obsessed with Danny. Meanwhile, he's defending Wacko Jacko Jax. I mean, honestly, make it make sense. Janet and Jason are both going at Danny and Nia, but mostly Danny. They're coming hard and implying that there's even more dirt out there, and that it's only a matter of time before Danny gets found out. And then there's Jax and Brittany. And all I know is that if Jax Taylor really wants to find himself, he not only needs to divorce Brittany, but he needs to divorce himself of all things Hollywood. All of it. Because Jax needs to face himself if he ever wants to fix himself. And as for Brittany, I wish her lots of love. Lots and lots of self-love. Because Brittany's never going to find the love that she's longing for until she learns to love herself. Sorry. Brittany, hey babe, I need you to listen. Sweetheart, here's what you need to know. Once you truly learn to love yourself, no one in this world can steal your sparkle. Nobody. Okay, now moving on over to OC, you guys. The show opens at Gina's housewarming. Gina is back with Travis. They have a new place. They have more square footage. And Gina is thriving, and she is so happy that all the women are coming over to see her new pad. Meanwhile, while all the ladies are getting ready, we see Gretchen, circa 2006, circa 2009, circa I don't know what, but a long time ago. We are in Gretchen's bedroom, you guys, and it is a time capsule. Same mirrored furniture. Oh my gosh, nothing has changed. Same everything. She is the same everything. Same flooring, same artwork. There has been no update. No update at all. As the ladies all arrive at Gina's house, she is beaming, so excited to have everyone there. She's giving house tours. Everyone is very impressed. One of the girls asked Jen if she met up with Tamara, and she said, yeah, I did, but it really didn't go well. She started accusing me of being a single white female that was obsessed with her. And then Gina says, that's funny because I actually heard that she showed Heather a picture of you when you were heavier. And Jen couldn't believe it. She's like, she's showing a picture of me when I was heavier. What are you talking about? Why would she do something like that? And then the doorbell rings and it's Tamara. She's very nervous about entering this lion's den, and she's already feeling super anxious. She walks in. Jen and Gretchen are sitting over on the couch, co-captains of the We Hate Tamara team. Tamara's going through a really hard time, but she looks amazing. Unlike Gretchen, whose hair, makeup, and clothing is so atrocious, it's hard to even wrap your head around. It's like a fever dream from 2012. Then Shannon Bedore shows up with a white bowl full of 9 soap lemons because Shannon likes to be on brand, thank you. Then it's time to eat, and as everybody's grabbing a plate, someone says, Tamara, make sure you eat. And she says, you know, I just can't. I just don't have an appetite. And then suddenly the energy shifts and everyone realizes that there's something much bigger in the room, which is the fact that Tamara has been shouldering all this grief because her best friend is going through the fight of a lifetime. This is right when Teddy Mellencamp had her surgery to deal with all those brain tumors that they found. And Tamara had just found out that they got out most of the brain tumors, but some of them were still in there. And having those brain tumors removed has made Teddy feel a little better physically. Tamara's just so bummed out because she says now she's going to have to go in and start having chemo, which is going to be so hard on her body all over again. And Tamara's just really having a hard time wrestling with all of this. Meanwhile, you have the two co-captains of the We Hate Tamara team looking at her like she's just using this narrative as a storyline to gain sympathy for herself. Outside, Jen brings up the fat girl picture to Heather, and Heather says, listen, Tamara wasn't doing that to be malicious. She was just showing me something, using it as a reference, like it wasn't what you're making it out to be. And Jen says, oh, would you stop covering for her? That's all you do. I don't understand how you can cover for her so much. And Heather turns around and says, you know, it's funny. She expects me to do so much defending of her, but meanwhile, I've never once heard that she defended me to Katie. Inside the house, Tamara says, why do I feel like they're outside talking about me? And Gina says, because when they're talking about you. Tamara tells the table about her sit down with Jen and that it didn't go very well. And Gretchen says, well, didn't you bring up the FBI? And Tamara says, I apologized for that. Gretchen says, well, what about calling her a single white female? And Tamara says, well, I felt that way. I really did feel that way. And then Tamara says, she can't say that she wants to make peace and then go hang out and tell lies and spread stories about me with people that don't like me. Gretchen says, like who? Tamara says, like you. The two of them are getting nowhere. Gretchen says, that's it. I'm out of here. She says, you're delusional, and I'm not going to sit here and talk to delusional people. So she walks outside. She asks Jen if she could scoot over, because I'm going to come sit out here now because I don't want to be in there with delusional people. And then Gina passes a bunch of black boxes out to all the girls. She tells them all to go stand outside. And then suddenly she appears in the upper window with a mask on, a Mardi Gras mask, and she throws a bunch of beads out at the girls. And she tells them all that she's taking them for a trip to Mardi Gras to New Orleans. All the girls are excited, hooping and hollering, except Tamara, who suddenly gets weepy and backs away from the group. And suddenly the energy shifts again. And then they cut back to just a few minutes before, where Tamara was telling the story about Teddy in New Orleans and about how she fainted there, passed out, and fell down a flight of stairs and really hurt herself from this whole brain tumor nightmare. So obviously Tamara has some very fresh feelings about New Orleans right now. And then we cut over to Emily and Shane's house, and they're still dealing with their son and the whole autism situation. And poor Emily is just really struggling, wanting to be there for her son in every way possible, like every good mother would. Then we're with Jen and Ryan while they're doing their everyday wedding workout. And while they're working out, they start talking about her ex-husband and the fact that he doesn't pay the bills that he's supposed to. He doesn't pay the child support. He doesn't pay the alimony. Ryan wants to have a man-to-man with Will, but Jen is not so sure. Then we're with Gina over at Shannon's house, and we're surrounded by a whole bunch of plates. Wasn't the plate situation insane? I mean, honestly, you'd think she has a catering company or something. The two of them are talking about Travis's ex, who is still causing big trouble for Gina. And then it's time to fly. First class, of course, but they can't all go together because there's not enough seats. So the women fly to Mississippi in shifts, and while the first shift is waiting for the second shift to arrive, they take a riverboat cruise. As half the girls get off the boat, the other half are getting off the plane. They all meet back up at the hotel. They get ready, and then they head out to dinner. And not just any dinner, but in a haunted mansion where they're serving turtle soup, which I'm sure is a delicacy, but I'll pass. Then Gina tells Gretchen that she looks like the private eye emoji, and she was 100% right. I'm telling you, poor Gretchen, she misses the mark every time. Then someone asks Jen who's watching her kids, and she says, well, actually Ryan, but it's supposed to be Will's weekend. And then Heather says, how do Ryan and Will get along? And she says, well, actually they don't. They don't even talk. They never have, but they did today. She says that Will showed up to drop off some of the kids, and that Ryan just went right outside and confronted him and said, what's wrong with you? You need to pay your bills. You need to do what you're supposed to do. And Will just said, I'm doing my best. And then Jen goes on to say, you know, I know that Ryan had all the good intentions, and I know that he was just trying to get some clarity, but he has no idea how hard he's made this for me, because now Will's going to block me and he's going to make my life so much more difficult. And Gina says, I can relate. My man's ex is making my life hell too. And then Shannon gets a text from one of her many friends, which causes all the women to roll their eyes. And then Jen says, Shannon, tell me this. If you could create him, what would the perfect man look like? And she says, well, for me, number one, he would have to be kind. He'd have to have a kind heart. Heather says, would you date a short guy? And Emily says, excuse me, my husband's short. Was that personal? And Heather says, oh, please, personal. Terry wears lifts. And they happen to be from China, and they happen to be very expensive. And then Heather says, Shannon, it's true. You do have a bevy of men surrounding you. And Shannon says, yeah, but none of them want to be intimate with me. And Katie says, "Ugh, I just can't imagine being single again." Tamara says, I know. Can you imagine giving blowjobs and having to be on top? And Emily goes, oh no. I don't do that. And then Heather hits her with the old, what's your favorite position? And Emily says, from behind, so I can watch TV. 600-pound life to be exact. And then she says, and if I could add snacks to it, I would. And that's just another reason why I love Emily so much. And then Shannon says, what about you, Dubrow? And Heather says, well, I don't think this is going to be much of a surprise to any of you. And Gina goes, she likes it on top. She's a control freak. She likes it on top. And Emily goes, yeah, can you just see it? She's on top of Terry. Oh, Terry, tell me about our stock portfolio. Oh, yeah, Terry, tell me about the dividends. Oh, yeah. You get the picture. I mean, it was hilarious. Emily's hilarious. Heather knew it was hilarious. I mean, Heather was laughing so hard the veins were bulging out of her head. It was so funny. The whole table is howling. And then Tamara goes, I want those videos. And Heather goes, I have never made a sex video in my life. And Katie goes, what? You haven't? And Heather goes, no, have you? And with the most impeccable timing, Shannon goes, of course she has. She records things, Heather. That's what she does. And it was hilarious. And listen, I know Shannon is so fired up about the fact that she got recorded, as anyone would be. But I would venture to say, in all the years that Shannon Bedore has been on this show, she has recorded people more than once. I can promise you that. Shannon Bedore plays dirty. Do not let her pull that good girl routine on you. And then they ask Tamara, what about you, Tamara? She goes, on the side. Heather goes, why? So you can just fall asleep right after? Tamara says, yes. But for some reason, nobody else can understand how that looks. So Tamara decides that she's going to use Emily and get down on the floor, and Tamara shows them exactly how she has sex. And Gina screams, that's some lazy girl shit. And it was hysterical because it was true. Jen's last and she says, well, the truth is mine doesn't even work. I recently had pelvic floor surgery, so right now it really is just the tip. Just the tip. Okay, now moving on over to Miami, you guys. Now, I know that it is normally scorching hot in Miami, but we are dealing with a Cold War here, people. There is a Cold War, and everyone can feel the effects. But before the ladies get into it, the show goes to the dogs, and I mean to the dogs. Have you ever heard of a dog brothel? Adriana is going to take her dog to get snipped, right? Fixed. But before the dog gets fixed, she's taking the dog to have a romp in the proverbial hay so it can get its rocks off for the first time before it gets its rocks cut off. I mean, honestly, have you ever heard about such a thing? And I mean, I don't understand. Is there, if these dogs aren't fixed yet, is one of them fixed and the other's not fixed? How do we prevent pregnancy? What's happening here? Anyway, it's weird. Adriana takes her dog to this doggy brothel, and then Lisa meets her there, and the two of them start talking about the boat ride. And Adriana says, I really think that I made a mistake in the way I acted, so I'm gonna go to Marisol's party. I feel like I need to apologize for my behavior. Meanwhile, Marisol's having lunch across town with Julia, and they're talking about everything that went down on the boat. And Marisol's just saying, you know, I just don't know how I can be friends with her anymore. When it gets to the point where she's like yelling at me and abusing me and body shaming me, why would I want to be friends with her? Julia tells Marisol that Adriana is really acting that way because she's pissed off that Julia is pulling away. And then Marisol brings up the whole Gertie issue, and Julia says, listen, we can be cordial and we can be fine in the same room, but I'm pretty sure our friendship is over. Then the two of them decide that they want to do something nice for Alexia to get her head out of all this Todd bullshit, and they decide that they're going to plan a trip to Sevilla, Spain. They think this is going to be exactly what Alexia needs to lift her spirits, so they decide to call her and tell her about the plan. And Alexia answers, and she's excited, but she goes on to say that that's great, but we're going to need to be back by this specific date because it's Todd's birthday. And the look on Julia and Marisol's face said it all. And Marisol is quick to follow it up with fine. But let me tell you something. We are not talking about men on this trip, especially Todd. Over at Gertie's house, she FaceTimes Dr. Jackie from Married to Medicine, who we all know and love. I mean, I love that woman. I don't know what it is. There's something so soothing about her voice. But Gertie calls her. They have a friendship. They've both gone through the breast cancer journey. So Gertie really looks to her. And then she goes on to tell her about these friends that aren't understanding why she did what she did at her party and how they're not really understanding her journey and what she's going through. And Dr. Jackie, just turns it around and says to her, I hope you understand what a beacon of light you are for so many. And you don't need to worry about these people. Worry about how much good you're doing for so many other people, and just focus on the people who are giving you what you need. And then Gertie goes on and says, this cancer has affected me in more than one way, and it's affected my intimacy with my husband, and things aren't as juicy down there as they maybe once were. And so Dr. Jackie, of course, tells her that she is going to send her a whole goodie bag of juicy stuff that's going to help her get, well, juicy. And then we're out to dinner with Julia, Martina, Stephanie, and her husband, Masood, who has been a huge fan of Martina's since forever. The four of them sit down and Stephanie asks how it's going with the new little boys. And they said, it's great, it's fine. There's some growing pains, but we're really enjoying it. And then they ask if she has any siblings. And she says, yeah, actually I have twin sisters, but we don't speak. We're not in communication. And then she says, I'm sorry, I didn't mean to bring the mood down. And Julia says, that's all right. We're having issues of our own with our two older daughters. They're still very upset with us. They feel surprised by the fact that we went and adopted these boys. And apparently you get the impression, or more than the impression, but the fact that they didn't tell the older daughters that they were doing this. And I don't really understand how in God's name they could expect those older daughters to not be upset. Or I mean, you can't just spring that shit on somebody as a parent. I mean, it's just so insensitive. I'm going to go out and adopt two little boys while you're away at college, and I'm not going to have a conversation with you about it, and we can get on the same page so that we can all be a united front as we do this together. I just don't understand it. It feels weird. It feels, I don't know. Something about it feels off. I just doesn't feel right and authentic and aligned if you can't be fully honest about what you're doing before you're doing it. You know what I mean? It's like the whole asking for permission instead of asking for forgiveness. Like maybe she knew that it wasn't going to go well, so she just went ahead and did it and thought she was just going to blindside them. Who wouldn't be pissed? Anyway, she goes on to tell them that it's been really hard. And Stephanie says, yeah, God, to camera, she says, they really have to get in front of this because it's really easy for 1 year to turn into 5 years. She says, I know, I've lived through this, and my sisters don't talk to my parents. And then they turn to Martina, and Martina says, yeah, and we can't get this time back. And then they flash back to a scene where Julia is on a FaceTime with her brother, and she's crying, talking about her relationship with the girls, her older girls, and how they're so pissed about the situation. But I'm telling you, I still have to stand by the fact that I just don't feel like everything was really done with any integrity if they weren't clear about things before things actually happen. You know what I'm saying? Let me know what you guys think. Do you guys think that those two daughters have a right to be upset? I personally do, but I want to know what you think. Leave me a message in the comments. I want to hear what you have to say. Then Julia changes the subject and tells Stephanie that she's planning this trip to Sevilla, Spain with Marisol for Alexia. And Stephanie is pumped about it. She's excited. She says, great, I'm coming, and I'm bringing my own jet. And then she says, and you're coming with me, Julia. And she says, but I can't fit everyone. I can only fit 3 other people, but you're definitely going to be one of them. And Julia says, well, I really wanted to whisk Alexia away because I really want to pull her head out of all this shit she's been going through with Todd. And then she says to Stephanie, maybe the two of us should go over to the bar. There's something else I want to talk to you about. And they leave the other two to stay there and talk tennis, which Masood is so happy about because he's dying to tell Martina about how he used to just watch how beautiful and shaped and muscular her arms were on the Wimbledon court in 1985. Julia and Stephanie go over to the bar, and Julia says, listen, I know you guys haven't gotten along so well so far, but I'm really telling you, I talk to Alexia every day, and I really think that the two of you would enjoy each other if you could just have a conversation and just get past this rough spot. And Stephanie says, listen, if that's what you really think, then okay, I'm in. I'm here for it. If you think we can all go on this trip and come back and everything's going to be hunky-dory, let's do it. And then it's time for Marisol's preppy party. Marisol says everybody knows her to be her mother's daughter, and everybody associates her with her Cuban side. But this preppy party is in honor of her father, who was actually from Connecticut, very waspy, and actually sent her to boarding school in Palm Beach. Alexia arrives first, and then Gertie arrives carrying a portable bar, which then Marisol later says, I like that bar, but I think it was regifted. While they're waiting for all the other ladies to show up, Marisol and Alexia sit down with Gertie, and Marisol says, Gertie, so here's what's happening. And she tells her about the trip that's coming up to Seville. And Gertie says, oh, I love Seville. I love Spain so much. And then Marisol goes on to say, but we're wondering, because she says, Kiki told me that you said that we're all in a cult. And did you say that? And then instantly Gertie gets defensive and she starts to get emotional. And she says, listen, I was really hurt and I was really upset. And I was really trying to express something that really mattered to me. And it felt like every one of you was just coming down on me at the same time. And I wasn't able to express myself. And so, yeah, it did feel like a cult. And yeah, I said that. And then Alexia goes, well, Gertie, that's not a very smart thing to say because you know we're not in a cult. And my God, she was sounding exactly like her East Coast sister, Teresa. You can tell that Gertie is really struggling. She said, you guys, I am really trying here. I even have a new motto, KISS, keep it simple, stupid. And Marisol says, listen, let's stay out of the semantics because honestly, it makes it hard for all of us. Then Larsa bursts through the door, but not bursting out of her shirt for once. Larsa is more covered up than she's ever been. She's followed by Adriana, who shows up looking like Britney Spears' big cousin in the Oops, I Did It Again video. And then you've got Stephanie, who rolls in head to toe Chanel. But honestly, this isn't really preppy for her. This is every day for her. She's head to toe Chanel every day, which I just have to say does not in any way scream fashion. Outside, Adriana thanks Marisol for inviting her and apologizes for that day out on the boat. She says, I'm really sorry. I was really drunk. But then Marisol hits her with the all, well, you know, you tell the truth when you're drunk, so maybe that really is the way you think. And Adriana says, listen, I don't understand why you're so mad at me either. What did I do to you? And Marisol says, listen, why don't we just be bigger than this and try and help these people because there's bigger issues here. And they both agree to that. They give each other a hug. And then Adriana goes bouncing back into the other room like Tigger and says, Marisol and I made up. We made peace. And then Julia arrives looking like a tennis player, followed by Lisa, who shows up looking like a Bratz doll. Then Gertie and Julia step aside. They sit down for a chat, and Gertie admits that the way she handled things with the texts at the party was all wrong. Julia apologizes for hurting her too. The two of them hug it out, and they both agree that Spain will be a fresh start. They head back to the table, and then Julia announces the travel plans to everyone. She says they're going to be flying into Seville, and then they'll be driving 3 hours to Marbella. But then Stephanie pipes up and ups the ante and tells everyone, listen, I can't bring everyone from Miami, but from Seville to Marbella, I got you guys. But she says, I can only carry 3 of you on the long leg. And Larsa is my best friend, and Julia's coming with me. And since Marisol said she won't go unless Alexia goes, I'm giving the seat to Adriana. And then Adriana can't help herself. She stands up and says, oh, isn't that so beautiful? Isn't that friendship they have so beautiful? Marisol won't accept the seat unless her best friend is Alexia is going. But yet I'm now going to be on this plane, and my best friend Julia was already on this plane, and she didn't say she wasn't going unless I was there. Funny how that works, isn't it? I really wish I had a connection with my friend the way those two do. She says, that's real loyalty. Julia says, oh, Adriana, stop it. That's not true. And then suddenly you see Alexia melting into Marisol's shoulder with tears running down her face. And to camera, she says, I'm so grateful for Marisol. She's been such a good friend to me. Then the ladies all lift their glasses and cheers to Spain. But hold on, everybody. In Miami, packing for vacation means packing your grudges. Anyway, I can't wait for next week. It is getting so good, you guys. All right, everybody, that about does it for this episode of Generally Speaking. Thank you so much for being here. If by chance you've been watching us on YouTube, please make sure you reach out and smash that subscribe button. I would appreciate it. If you've been listening on your favorite streaming platform, please make sure you give us a follow, leave us a 5-star rating. If you'd like to collaborate or have a question you'd like answered on the pod, you can email me at jennifer@jennifersnook.com. And if you'd like to find me on socials, you can find me on TikTok at This Is Generally Speaking or on Instagram at The Jennifer Snook. Guys, I have loved spending this time with you. Thank you so much for being here. And make sure you check out that community tab where I am posting pictures of all the things that we're talking about. I've got Garlic Festival pictures up. I'm going to put some Junior's Cookies pictures up. I'll put that video if I can and some pics of Sabrina's visit to the salon. So there'll be some fun stuff there for you to look at. But anyway, I love you guys. I hope you are all having a wonderful weekend. And until we're together again, everybody, stay rooted in love. We'll see you next time.